What is up, everybody? This is RybackStun. We have returned to Marvel Heroes. Today, we have a review, not a preview, of the Marvel Heroes' newest hero, Taskmaster. Now, Taskmaster was a secret hero that was released on Tuesday, April 3rd. It was kind of a follow-up to their April Fool's Day joke where they teased Taskmaster was coming, but it was taken as a complete April Fool's Day joke instead of they literally had the character ready to go, so they popped him right on live servers on the 3rd, and it was a great surprise. As you can tell, I'm already level 60 on my first prestige of Taskmaster. I've enjoyed every minute of him, and he is an absolutely amazing hero that I think is going to be a very good character to see within the coming days of characterization in this game and stuff that's coming out later on. So, in this video, we're going to take a look at all of his powers, how they work together, and we're going to take a look at my build that I'm going to be prepping up here once this is all finished, and probably what will end up being my end build for Prestige after I finish the next one, which I am going to be going through Blue Prestige. So I'm not really that big of a Prestige person, but Taskmaster's been fun enough that allows me to do that. So, as you can tell, Taskmaster has 3 trees. He's got Superb Combatant, which is melee, his Deadly Marksman, which is ranged, and then Photogenic Reflexes is his one passive, all of his toggles, his CC break, and his signature. So we're going to go through these one at a time fairly quickly, and then I'll show you how each of them works. So his first melee basic is called Foe Slayer Strike. It does damage, and it increases his damage for each 1% of missing spirit. This is going to be really good if you don't want to worry about trying to keep your spirit at a certain level. If you just want to spirit dump and go for it, this basic is the best for that, and you want to make sure that you dump as much spirit as possible while using this. I generally try to sit about 50% spirit before I start using Foe Slayer Strike. Once I get down to that point, I'll use it to kind of recoup the spirit a little bit, but it does do a significant portion of damage for the character as I play him. One of his movement powers is Anti-Heroic Charge. You'll notice it has the Captain tag. We'll more about that later. Basically, it's a shield run, knocks down, and it has 10% damage negation for 10 seconds. Our first Devil power is Dismember. It works basically exactly as Triple Strike does, 40% damage per consecutive strike, and it just pop, pop, pop with the shield. We have, or with the sword, excuse me. We have Rebounding Shield, which is very similar, actually it's the exact same thing as Cap's power, except that it provides a bleed once it hits its targets, which is very important for another power later on. We have Seize, where you throw a rope out, grab a guy, and bring him towards you, and then you punch him in the face. Then we have Shield Crush, which is the reason why the bleed was very important in the Rebounding Shield, because when you use Shield Crush, it does 50% more base damage to enemies that are bleeding, which is very important. And then the last power here that's not a basic is Cyclone Club. He swings his club around him, and it slows enemies that are hit for 3 seconds. And then his second melee basic is called Rending Swings. Does more base damage than Foe Slayer Strike, but it restores 2 spirit whenever you hit the enemy, and I believe that goes up. It actually does not. So there's that. On the Marksman tree, we have his first basic called 45 Caliber. It's just one shot, rate of fire 2.6, and then it has Brutal Strike rating for that power. Then there's Deadly Volley, which works exactly like Hawkeye's Fan of Arrows. This is the first Archer power you'll see here. And nice rate of fire, good spirit cost, good solid AoE damage. You've got the first Spider power, which is Webnet. Drops a slow onto the ground, enemies are vulnerable, and it's pretty good damage on its own. Legion Arrow, which is the traditional boss shred ability, deals 40% extra base damage to bosses, elites, and champions, and all that other lovely stuff. Then we have Spidey Swing, which works similar to the Anti-Heroic Charge, except it stuns and it grants you movement speed for 10 seconds. There's a small issue with Spidey Swing as it is, as of time of recording. Sometimes you'll get stuck on stuff and it really sucks. You have to log out or, body slide back into Bay. Then there's Tear Gas Arrow, which works exactly as the Tear Gas Arrow. Currently it says energy damage. On the next patch, it will be switched over to physical damage so that all of Taskmaster's abilities are physical damage. And they may even change the name of it to Nerve Gas Arrow. And then we have Web Cocoon, which stuns enemies in an area around you, has a certain amount of attack speed. Pretty hefty spirit cost on that. And then your secondary basic for ranged is called Dual Wield. Takes 2 pistols, fires, it fires pretty rapidly, and you get more rate of fire the more points you have into it. Last on his Photogenic Reflexes tree, we have the passive called Flawless Emulation. He gets base defense, dodge, damage, and crit rating. He will gain more defense and dodge for 10 seconds if you use a Captain or a Devil power, which is what the melee powers are. And then, with the exception of his 2 basics. And then he gains damage rating and crit rating whenever he uses an Archer or a Spider power, which is what these powers are with the exception of the 2 basics. Now the reason why that's important for these tags is that when you use one of those abilities, you'll get that extra damage defense dodge crit rating depending on which ones you use. A lot of the melee builds will definitely be getting defense and dodge right off the bat, no problem. The ranged builds will definitely be able to get the damage and crit rating, no problem. But a mix of powers is the best way to be able to activate the passive on Flawless Emulation, and it does scale up pretty well. Our first toggle here is called Peerless Archer. You get attack speed, damage rating with range powers, brute strike rating, and then you have a flat 25% chance to deal a bleed to your enemies for 3 seconds, and you get plus 1% chance to bleed for each point in Archer powers, and that does not include the toggle itself. So you'll notice I have 3 power. I have a point in Deadly Volley, a point in Legion Arrow, and a point in Tear Gas, and that gives me 28% chance to do the bleed. On a range build, this is actually amazing because it does apply that bleed, and if you do want to use Shield Crush in that aspect, you have the possibility of doing a lot more damage in an area than you would normally with just Rebounding Shield. The next toggle is Impervious Soldier. You get a 5% chance to block attacks, you gain maximum health, you regenerate health every second, and then you have a chance, 25% base chance to ignore the next set of damage within 3 seconds. And then obviously plus 1% for damage in each of the captain powers. Then you have Fearless Acrobat, which gives you dodge chance, damage rating to melee powers, tenacity, and 28% chance to restore health on hit, so it's a Lemuria effect and pretty darn good if you put points into the devil powers. Then you have your last toggle, which is Amazing Web Slinger. You're able to see enemies on the minimap. You have plus 5% movement speed, a 10% evasion chance, maximum spirit, and then chance to restore spirit on hit. So if you need to restore spirit on some of the stuff that you're using, you'll be able to use this in combination with your Rending Swings, and you'll be able to stay at full spirit pretty much at all times, which sometimes is important, sometimes isn't. It depends on what you want to roll for your build. Then we have his AoE break, which is crowd control immunity duration is 1.5 seconds, 15-second cooldown, as all cooldown abilities, as all CC break abilities do after their reworks or new characters. And then the last power here is a fairly interesting one. It's called Action. Basically, Taskmaster drops a camera down, and while he's within that circle, he gets damage rating. Critical and brutal damage rating, critical and brutal strike rating, defense and tenacity, attack and movement speed, plus ranks to all powers, plus 1 all attributes, and the area duration of 12 seconds. And he does get plus 1% of duration per point in field exercise, which is his ultimate. And his ultimate's pretty badass as well. It's basically a drop of a bunch of people onto the ground, 30-second summon duration. They have 400% of your defense rating, 400% of your health. You get Enforcers, Riotmen, Riflemen, Squads, excuse me, and Demolitionists, and they do a lot of damage on their own. They have a whole bunch of other stuff that they can do. And as well, as you continue to utilize them in the actual duration of the effect, they will gain blue auras, which gives them extra base damage and damage negated. And then they'll end up with yellow auras, which gives them even more base damage and damage negated. So I have 3 bars here. I've got bar 1, which is all of his melee abilities. I've got bar 2, which is all of his ranged abilities. And then bar 3, which is his toggles, his area of effect ability. Or his signature. So let's go ahead and show you how each of these works. We're going to show you Foe Slayer Strike first. Bam, 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 bam. Pretty easy attack. We'll show you the Rending Swings next, which is pretty much the same animation, but it will be restoring health when I use it. You've also got the charge, boom, boom, boom. They're resisting the knockdown, obviously, because they can't be knocked down. Dismember is next. Bam, 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 and it just continues doing damage, 40% damage extra. And we'll show you that once we get down to about half health, the Foe Slayer Strike will do a little bit more damage. And then the actual Rending Swings, notice is how it restores my power faster. Then we've got this, where we do the Rebounding Shield and it hits everybody in an area. I'm actually missing a power on here, aren't I? No, I'm not. There it is. And then you have the actual Seize, which doesn't work on these things, but you'll see it did say resist, which means it wanted to head towards me in order to be able to use. Got a Rebounding Shield really quick, and then we'll show you Shield Crush. Now, what's really cool about this is that I can throw this way and Shield Crush anyway, unlike Captain's interaction of his powers, Captain America, where he has to have the shield on his arm in order to be able to use the slam or the throw, which is important to be able to utilize in the aspect of stuff. And then you've got this, which is the Cyclone Club. It's actually very similar to one of Black Cat's powers, but obviously Daredevil uses it in an aspect as well, and that is all the melee powers. Next, we have the ranged powers, which here is the 45 caliber. You'll notice that it's doing a decent amount of damage. And then there's the dual wield, which you'll see does a little bit less damage, but it does more shots overall. You've got the Spidey Web Sling, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't get myself stuck on anything, but there's that. Here's the Web Net. It'll drop a vulnerability and a slow, and then I can throw the Legion Arrow there to do some extra damage. And then one of my favorite powers that I've actually come to discover about this character is this Deadly Volley. It does a lot of damage, and if you stack it properly with some of the other buffs that you get later on, as well as some of your uniques and Peerless Archer, you can shred a pack down pretty quickly. Now, it's not as useful on bosses, which is why you have the boss shred of Legion Arrow if you're going to go a ranged build. But it's still pretty decent in the way that it does itself. And there's your Tear Gas Arrow, same type of thing, wind up, drop down, damage, boom. And then your Web Cocoon, which drops cocoons onto a bunch of different enemies. And there is that aspect. Now, your last thing here, we've got the different toggles. There's no real, you can activate 2 at any time. So once I activate another one, I actually can't even activate another one. But I'll drop one, and then I'll go to Daredevil, and then I'll drop Archer, and then I'll go to Spider-Man, so on and so forth. Here's the actual CC break as it is, and then one of the cooler powers here is I'm going to drop this and switch to 1. So you'll notice that there's a little circle. There's also this camera interlay, because it's basically Taskmaster recording a commercial, and he does a ton of extra damage while he's got that out there. He's got the crit, got the brute, all that other lovely stuff, and it's a pretty darn good area of effect power. Area buff, but it only works for you. It does not work for anybody else that's in your group. So, and then we'll go ahead and drop the ultimate here right now, so you can see what happens. They drop down, there's the mercenaries everywhere, and let's go ahead and start taking some dudes down. Now, I believe they do passively gain their little upgrades in abilities, but if you're defeating enemies, they will get their upgrades much, much faster, and but you'll notice that some of them are now starting to turn yellow, and basically the ultimate is the Taskmaster terminal, and that's kind of how it runs. So, that is Taskmaster's abilities, all of them as they are. Now, the way that I have a build set up personally for myself, I actually only max out about 4 powers in the build. I max out Foe Slayer Strike, I max out Rebounding Shield, I max out Shield Crush, and I max out Flawless Emulation. The reason why I run it that way is that it gives me a nice mix of ranged and melee powers. I do get the big melee crush and all that other lovely stuff, and then I have the cap powers to activate off of that. I'm going to be taking Webnet as part of my build because that vulnerability and the slow is really helpful to be able to stop enemies in their tracks, be able to get them set up so that I can do some damage to them. And then the Spidey power will also activate the damage and crit ability for 10 seconds. So as long as my enemies are vulnerable, or actually it's about half the time of that, so double the time of my vulnerability and my slow, I activate this. So every 5 seconds I pop out a Webnet, I've got the extra crit and damage going, period. So I can put points into this, the Foe Slayer Strike, I can put points into the Rebounding Shield, I can put points into the Shield Crush if I can press the button properly, and then I can put points into this Flawless Emulation. Now that leaves me, because I have so many points spread across, I do have every point available to Taskmaster, and that's kind of important to the way that it is. I think that maybe the best way to do this, I don't need the extra % chance to do Fearless Acrobat, but Fearless Acrobat is a really good power to have. That's your offensive power with bonus to melee damage. And then you have a choice between if you want to run Amazing Web Slinger or if you want to run Impervious Shield. Now, obviously, with this build that I'm rolling, the Impervious Soldier is going to give you an extra set of defense. But you could get the projection evasion chance, being able to see enemies on the minimap and restoring spirit and having maximum spirit. But because I don't have spirit problems, I'm likely going to just put the points in Impervious Soldier. I'm also going to max out my action because that's just too good to pass up. You'll notice that I've got, with 20 points in it, 537 damage rating, brute and critical damage rating, 520 brute and crit strike. Then I've got defense and tenacity at 958, movement speed at 9.9, plus 3 to current rank of all powers, and all that lovely stuff. So we're going to confirm that. We're going to drop some of these onto my toolbar. I always try to have my toggles here on those there. I put the Rebounding Shield on my right click. I drop the Shield Crush here. The Webnet is going to be there in the center, and then my actual charge itself will be here with Foe Slayer Strike on the left click. So that's pretty much how I'm going to be rolling the build that I'm going to be running. I'm going to turn off Spider, and I'm going to turn off Imperious Soldier. Turn on Imperious Soldier. Oh, oops. Okay, I didn't do that right. Foe Slayer Strike. There's that. There's the Rebounding Shield. There's the Shield Crush. There's the Web Net. Sorry, I'm a doof. I think that some of the devil powers will be important. Taskmaster is a character that you can run multiple different builds and still be successful with the character. And that is absolutely amazing. Now, my Taskmaster has nothing on him right now because I wanted to make sure that you guys could see what the natural damage values on the stuff is. I also have his Hutong Costume. Here is his regular costume. Notice how he's got the bow out right now. But if I were to swap into the Hutong Costume, this is how he looks with that. There's some issues with the back, the way that he looks like from behind. It kind of reminds me of a New Jersey thug in a tracksuit with hockey pads. That's pretty much the best way I can describe it, and I'm not very happy with that characterization. But Taskmaster has 5 uniques. He's got the Solid Energy Shield, he's got the Videotape Collection, he's got the Agency X Body Armor, the Finesse Baton, which I think is actually better than what I've got here. Yes, it is. And then he's also got the Fearsome, or the Frightful 4 helmet, or hood. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and take everything out, stack it onto my character pretty quickly, and then I'll go through what I have for each of these items. So right now I've got a physical damage Uru with Bone Breaker, gives me 200 damage rating to melee power, 2% when I hit with the melee power to cause broken bones, slowing them and slowing their movement and attack speed. I get +2 attack speed and +1 strength. That lets me do more damage to physical attacks, 5% there. I run Snake Root. You could run Lemuria, you can run Atlantis, you could run Asgard. I run Snake Root because I like Taskmaster being a little bit faster. I've got an Insignia of Eric O'Grady on him. Once he gets his bug fix, he'll be able to run Avengers and Thunderbolts insignias. Right now he can only roll Shield, but my O'Grady has dodge rating on it, which I think is amazing. Taskmaster Medallion procs, or gives me the range damage on my web net, and it also gives it on my shield bounce, so that's pretty good for me. I'm running a Blessed ACCOC, which has a Blessing of Fandral on it. I am running a Blessed Advanced Super Soldier Serum. I'm going to be running an Advanced Kung Fu and a Blessed Pimp Shrinking, which gives me a bunch of extra dodge. My Cosmic Ring isn't optimal right now, but it does give me dodge, crit damage, brute strike, and spirit. Don't really need spirit that much. I do have a rank 4 Gungnir, which is important. I still need to get a couple more uniques, but right now I think I'm pretty good in the aspect of what I've got together with my character. You'll note that I've got 42% dodge rating, I've got 36.3% crit rating, it's a little low. I'm doing 191% of normal damage on crit hits, which is pretty good considering the fact that that's a little under half, actually it's a little more than half of what I'm doing on brute strikes. So there is that. Let's go run a terminal really quick. We're going to go ahead and run a Red Odin's Palace, just to showcase to you how my build works. You can substitute any powers you want because, like I said, Taskmaster's pretty much a badass, and it can run anything you want him to run. So you'll notice there that I took out that guy pretty quickly. Obviously, these things aren't necessarily that much of a challenge, but they can be pretty iffy if you're not running the proper stuff together. So I do have the extra dodge chance for my Fandrels, which is always nice. I'm not rolling the damage that I should be rolling just yet. But, because I am missing a couple uniques, I'm also running a lower level slot 1, which is not great, not optimal, obviously. But, who cares? Running through, knocking out some guys. Only have to knock out the lieutenants, so let's just go do that. Okay, one lieutenant is not up here. Here's the lieutenant here. And then we've got our damage power activated, so, ooh, we just got an advanced meta sensor here. I gotta pick that sucker up, since I never see those. I'm just gonna skip as many guys as I possibly can, because there's no point. It's not a Cosmic Terminal. I don't think I'm actually all that prepared for a Cosmic Terminal as of just yet with this character. I'd like to get some more uniques together. I'd like to actually put a costume core on him, since I don't have anything just yet. I will be prestiging as soon as I get a full set of uniques for him and my Gungnir rank 5. Which is important. So that's what this helps with. It gives me extra possibility to do some stuff. Now the reason why I'm not running Legion Arrow is because honestly, Rebounding Shield and Shield Crush do more than enough damage to bosses for me to be able to take them down, especially with that vulnerability I get from WebNet. If you feel you need a boss shred, go for that Legion Arrow. It procs your stuff properly. You can try to spec into the Peerless Archer with it. It's, you know, a great power to have. let's go ahead and drop my, what's it called here, my signature, try to get some extra damage going. And notice how, you know, I don't really have that much of a spirit dump. I could just try to blast as much of that as possible. I have considered running something like Cyclone Club as a spirit dump, but honestly, even with just a little bit of spirit missing, you're doing more than enough damage with your actual basic. So we're almost finished with Curse here. So, wow, it took a little bit more damage than I wanted to. Let's drop on top of him, and there he is down. So we got ourselves a Curse Medallion, Majestic Spear, Cube Shard, Fractastic Mask, I think is what that said. So there you go, there's a Curse Terminal done pretty quickly. And that is Taskmaster. Now, I've done 2 different builds while leveling up. I'm going to go back to the terminal, or not the terminal, but the training room really quick. I've run 2 different builds while leveling up my character. The first build that I had was Foe Slayer Strike, Rebounding Shield, Shield Crush, Legion Arrow, Flawless Emulation, a couple points in Peerless Archer, and a couple points in Impervious Soldier. The reason why I was running Peerless Archer is because I had points in Legion Arrow, plus it gave me the damage rating on my Rebounding Shield, and then the Impervious Soldier gives me the extra damage reduction due to the fact that I have more health, I regenerate health, I have a chance to block attacks, and obviously now I have a 66% chance to ignore the next 467 damage received within 3 seconds. So that's all good there. I'd have extra bonus points to be able to do bleeds with my Legion Arrow or Deadly Volley if I wanted to throw that out, or the Web Net if I wanted to run that as well. My second build that I ran in my Green Prestige was Dual Wield, Deadly Volley, Legion Arrow, Web Net, my charge, points in Peerless Archer and Web Slinger with the maxed out Flawless Emulation. Both of them ran pretty well. I felt like I had better boss damage with this build, but it really all depends on how you want to work the different things together. Now, Daredevil's little proc here, 28% chance to restore 157% health, on hit. With the extra dodge chance and the damage rating to melee powers, it's really good. You can get that proc up by putting points into something like Dismember or Cyclone Club. Like I said, if you need a spirit dump, run the Cyclone Club. You're not going to get the extra damage because you won't be running an Archer or a Spider power, but you do get the base damage anyway, which is pretty darn good in a power like that. And notice at level rank 30 here, I've got 1,000 defense dodge and then 371 damage crit, gaining basically double that while using the proper powers. Nothing says you can't just drop a Web Net where you want anyway. And whenever they fix the toggles, I'll probably drop these off of my first bar onto my second bar and make it so that I can have more powers available to me up here on the main. So, I hope you guys enjoyed Taskmaster, taking a look at him as much as I have playing him over the past couple days. Sorry this video is a little bit late. I wanted to make sure I get some of his combat and stuff under my belt since he wasn't on Test Center and I couldn't just beef him up to 60 and try him out right there and then. Make sure to like and comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and Tumblr at RybackStun. More videos as they come along, more Marvel Heroes, more Hearthstone, more Star Trek, all that other lovely stuff. And with that, this is RybackStun, signing out.